Okay, soft, gentle focus. This is something I've been thinking a lot about because I've been thinking about how the law of attraction has been operational in my life throughout, even though I wasn't aware.
Like gravity.
Yeah, apparently, like that. And as I look back at it, I see things like my 7-year relationship ended 2 weeks before the wedding, and through that experience, I put so many thoughts in my head about what I would like to have in a spouse. But I didn't pursue that. I just had thoughts about it. And a year and a half later, the exact model showed up in my life when I wasn't expecting it. And I hadn't been in pursuit of that either. And
when I wasn't expecting it, we want to clarify that.
Okay.
Because there was a vibrational expectancy, or it couldn't have come. But what most people mean when they say I wasn't expecting it, they mean I wasn't working hard on making it happen. And hear the distinction. So that's a soft and gentle focus. I wasn't expecting it, meaning I wasn't laboring over it, but it was real and life caused it to be real. And then I got out of the way of my desire that was piqued by my unpleasant seeming experience. And then, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As that continues, I married the man, and he told me from day one we were going to go to Hawaii for our 10th anniversary. And I thought, okay, you're going to work for the church. I'm going to stay home and work part-time and take care of children. And I don't know how that's going to happen, but I never squashed the thought for him.
Well, you were squashing it for yourself with those
thoughts. I did. I squashed it for me.
You just were demonstrating, yeah. So did he go without you?
No. No, he didn't. But I want to say that, yeah, you're right. I did squash it for me, but I didn't just try to distract him from thinking that. And he said it over and over and over again. And when we
Well, you see, what you're describing of yourself, that's a really interesting thing, because most people who have strong feelings or beliefs like you do don't let the others in the room think what they think. You're usually trying to make them understand that what you think is the way they should think. So that's quite a unique and interesting thing. So interesting that we don't really believe it completely. Not completely. What you may be saying to us is what you think he is unaffected by, which is about his skill.
Okay. Well, he's skilled.
Yeah.
I know this.
Yeah. More like the cat.
More like the cat, yeah.
So those people in your life that live up close to you who don't do what you want them to do, they're skilled. You're getting what we mean. Yes. And so?
So we were married 8 years, and Wheel of Fortune came to town looking for contestants, and he took me to Hawaii for 17 days. It was fabulous. It was fabulous.
So what we want to hear from you is, was it a fluke that you went? No.
No.
Was it as a result of his clarity about it? Because he always said that and only that.
That's true.
And you resisted it because you didn't really believe it. What do you think was demonstrated there? That his desire was strong enough that it prevailed, or that you weren't as resistant as your words are implying?
Well, I love this man enough to marry him, so I trust him in many regards, if not all regards. And he was so confident about it that I thought, well, that'd be lovely. I don't see how that's going to happen.
But what we're getting at here is that this is really a fine-tuning thing that we're doing here. Because you're doing what a lot of people do. For the sake of telling a story and for the sake of trying to sort of sort things out, you said things in the story that must not have been too vibrationally evident because the manifestation was different than that. You said, he believed this, but I believed this. And then he kept believing this, and I was sort of doubtful about it, but maybe sort of believing about it. And then what he believed came about. And we want you to think about what your part in it was so that you can replicate whatever it was, because it did work. We don't want you to argue for limitations that are non-existent, any of you. And a lot of you argue for limitations that really aren't big for the sake of entertainment, for the sake of a good story, often for the sake of wanting to understand it, but that doesn't fall into the soft and gentle focus, does it? That falls into the creating a little bit more drama for myself than I really needed to. What we're getting at is, what do you think the point of your story was? With all the words that you offer to us, what were you really trying to convey to us? Were you trying to convey, I have a husband whose mind is so clear that he gets what he wants even when I defy it a little bit? Or were you trying to convey, at first I didn't believe, but his belief then caused me to believe more? Or were you trying to convey, I have something in the vortex and I didn't think that much about it, and because I didn't think that much about it against it and he was thinking only for it, it happened for us?
That one.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's I guess what I wanted to point out for myself and perhaps for other people too, is that the law of attraction's always been operational. I just wasn't aware of it. It was happening when my husband appeared. It was happening when the trip appeared.
So let's take this even further. Not only has law of attraction always been operational, even though you may have not been aware of it, but step 1, step 2, step 3 was operational, even though you may not have been aware of it. And so it's like our friend just before you is describing to us that she sort of is just naturally in this place where she doesn't go looking for vibrational issues to clutter up her vibration with. Where most people, in your quest for interaction with each other and in your quest for being understood, you're on a scavenger hunt all the time, looking for stuff that actually gets in your way. Yeah. So
what I am noticing these days, because I have been like aware of your teachings for, I don't know, 5 years, maybe a while, that I'm being intentional about what I would like to see happen in my life. And this is really, for myself, where the soft, gentle focus comes in.
Yes.
Because that's been the question I've been thinking about.
Well, this
recently.
is the question that's really active in this room today. So when I'm intentional, am I helping myself or am I hindering myself? Because here's the answer to this question. So you get it, that when you ask, it is given, blah, 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 blah. The question is, how do you get in the receptive mode? And then another question, equally important, is, how do I know that I'm in the receptive mode of my vortex? And how do I know when I'm in the receptive mode of my problem? Well, the answer to that is, the softer you feel about it, the more likely it is that you are in the receptive mode of what your inner being knows. If you feel like you've got to work hard at it, then something is active in your vibration that you feel that you need to overcome. Can you feel that? I need to be clear about this. I need to be determined about this. I need to be sure about this. I need to be certain about this. Where if you're having a soft and gentle focus, then that means you believe in the outcome and you're not assigning yourself to some flawed premise struggle that doesn't work anyway. That's why many, many, many times in a day, as a thought occurs to Esther, she asks herself, okay, did that come from Abraham? Did that come from my vortex? Did that thought come from someone who knows what I really want, who is moving me toward the solution of what I want? Or did that thought come from my awareness that I've got a problem that I'm trying to work on? It's really pretty easy once you get focused in this way, because your receptors are always open. It's like your radio is always on, but your proclivity to be tuned to who you really are gets better every day if you're consciously aware of what that feels like in relationship to the other. We've been saying to you specifically, and to a lot of you for a long time, you're trying too hard. And when you try too hard, it's because your awareness is on the obstacles that you're needing to overcome. And when your awareness is on the obstacles that you need to overcome, then you're not going with the flow of what you really want. What all of this conversation has been about all day here today is, every subject is two subjects. There is wanted on one end of the stick and the absence of it on the other end of the stick. Which end of the stick is most active in me? Which end of the stick? Am I solution-oriented or am I problem-oriented on every subject? And it moves around. On some subjects, you're much more solution-oriented. On some subjects, you're more problem-oriented. So in relationship to your husband, do you believe that he was more solution-oriented or more problem-oriented relative to the idea of going to Hawaii?
Oh, he was solution-oriented.
All through it, even when there was not a means to do it. And do you believe that you were more solution-oriented or problem-oriented through some of that time?
Well, I think I was more solution-oriented.
We
and
think
that's
so
why
too.
I didn't resist.
But today, that's not the story you told. But you see what we're getting at? Life causes you to tell stories for the sake of how you think others will hear them. And we want you to always be advocating for the solution-oriented end of the stick, regardless of what anybody else is thinking about it. Sometimes you deliberately do not expose your thriving because you're worried what others will feel about it. If you're around people who aren't thriving and you're exposing your thriving, sometimes you worry that they might misunderstand. Well, of course they're going to misunderstand. And there's nothing that you can do that's going to make them understand unless you reduce yourself to not thriving like they're not thriving. And sometimes you teachers, that's what you do. You're looking for resonance with humanity that surrounds you rather than with your own vortex. There it is.
Okay, so now I'm going to relate to the young woman who was just here, because I feel like I walk around obviously thriving much of the time. And there is a part of me that thinks, tone it down. Because as I look around, so many people are not. But I want to be a light. I want to be who I am.
Here's the question, though. And the reason that it's feeling kind of uncomfortable, even as you say it, is because you're toning it down because you don't believe they have the ability to thrive?
I believe everybody has the ability to thrive.
So then we'll say it more clearly. Is there awareness that they're not thriving? Your attention is upon they're not thriving, and that's painful to you. So it isn't about whether you're toning down your own thriving or not. It's what you're focused upon relative to them. And that's why our friend who was just talking to us, and we were really admiring her ability to do that, she's just sort of walking around a little detached. She's not in their business about whether they're thriving or not. That's why we call Facebook nosebook. You've got your noses in places that may be helping you and may not be. A little more attention to what's going on with you, a lot more attention to your relationship with your inner being, a lot more attention to how you feel. And we haven't used this word here today, but satisfaction is the key for you because you are a teacher to the very core of your being. We never meet anyone who cares more about being an uplifter. And you've gone at it in a lot of different ways. You've found personal thriving and you've expressed it, only to find that a lot of people don't respond well to somebody who's really thriving when they're not. So you think, well, that didn't work, so maybe I'll show less thriving. So then you show less thriving and that doesn't work because then you're joining them in that vibration. And so the only way that you can be joyful in this world is to be in connection with who you really are. And the only way that you can stay in connection with who you really are is by not giving too much attention to those who are not in connection. It really comes down to you get what you think about. So that's why we began this gathering today by talking about how most people are offering most of their vibration in response to what they're seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and touching. Your observation of things already manifested dictates way too high of a proportion of your vibration. So if you could just reel that in a little bit. Don't be so interested in these manifestations that really are like the gum that somebody's chewed the flavor out of. Don't pay so much attention to what you want to call reality, which is already manifested, and start focusing upon the reality that is in the process of becoming. And then you'll feel joyful all the time. Like when you're seeing someone that's not thriving, so what? That's old news. That's how they're living in response to how they've been thinking. And it's how they're living in response maybe even to how you've been thinking about how they're thinking. But this is a new day. You're not noticing how they are in terms of manifestation. You're not looking at the thriving that they've accomplished or not accomplished. Instead, you're seeing them, maybe even seeing their problem that you know has created a solution. And you're looking toward their solution. You can be an advocate for a solution for someone that doesn't even know there's a solution. When you get the hang of this, you've heard what we've been saying today, and we know for sure that you know that there's a vibrational reality that we want you to focus toward, don't you? So what if you are an uplifter, as you are, and you know that this person who maybe is having a hard time also has a vortex full of all kinds of things that they want. And what if you had the discipline, as Jesus said, to turn the other cheek, and you were looking at their vibrational reality rather than at their physical manifested reality? What if you see them as their inner being sees them? And what if you, standing there and feeling it so strongly that you have such resonance with your inner being that now you are like one who is 1,000,000 times more powerful because you're connected to this energy stream. You're in this receptive mode. What if you stand there in concert with your inner being and with their inner being, beholding them? Don't you think that it's a whole lot more likely for them to see themselves now in the way that you are seeing them?